Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the college football playoff. This is week 3 that we're on in this exciting college football season that we're up against right now. Last weekend, we saw a lot of great games. Texas A&M barely lost to those Clemson Tigers. Clemson barely skated by with a good win down there in College Station. Georgia completely decimated South Carolina, in which game a lot of people thought that South Carolina could potentially upset those Georgia Bulldogs, but the boys came through and proved the nation that they're for real. Alabama had an easy game against Arkansas State, got by them pretty easily. Top 10 this week, everything stays the same, as I feel that Georgia would jump Clemson here in the few coming weeks and get to number 2. But nothing's really changed too much. Wisconsin falls as Ohio State replaces them, and Washington and Stanford, they switch places at 9 to 10, but nothing too much shakeup in the top 10 rankings. This week, we got a few great games ahead of us. Auburn plays LSU down in Auburn, which should be, I feel like, game of the week. If not that, should be Alabama versus Ole Miss, which should be a great game down there. They always play each other tough, especially in a big SEC West battle down there. Another game I would say to look out for is TCU versus Ohio State. That could potentially be an upset there. In Columbus, there's no Urban Meyer, but TCU and those guys down there in Fort Worth, Dallas area, those guys are ready to play. Few things, guys that fell out of the top 25, South Carolina was the huge loss, and then Florida losing Kentucky the way they did. I feel like Florida, they're regrouped, but they have to get it together now. But a few teams have to prove themselves. LSU, it'd be a huge statement game if they can beat Auburn, this weekend. It'll tell a lot about the team, Coach O and those guys down there in Baton Rouge. Teams to watch out for, I would say, is Houston. They put on a show against Arizona. They really did, and those guys showed that, hey, they're for real. They may be, but we shall see in the next coming weeks. They have South Florida still, and they still have UCF, in the conference games. Ole Miss, and this is a huge statement game for them. They're playing Alabama, the top dog. There's no Jalen Hurts they have to worry about. It's all Tua now. So I feel like this should be a great game. It should be game of the weekend in my eyes. Texas A&M really proved themselves. They just need a quarterback. They get a legit quarterback, they're good. They have a beast at receiver number 13. He's similar to a Mike Evans. He may be even a little better. But it was a great showing that he had. The defense was stout, as they exposed a little bit of weaknesses of Clemson. But, Clemson is always Clemson. Dabo Swinney is always going to have those guys looking pretty good down there. One other thing, congrats to those boys down in Lawrence, Kansas, University of Kansas. They finally entered the streak. They haven't won a road game since 2009. That's a long time. They've been through a lot of head coaches, but hey, good job to those guys. Hopefully they can get the win against Rutgers down in Lawrence this weekend. Quarterback situation, like I said, Bama, they have Tua now. Tua is the guy. There's no Jalen, so they don't have anything to worry about. In the Clemson situation, I feel like, it's any day for Trevor Lawrence to take the reins. But to add to a little upset for this weekend, a little sleeper right here, I should say, those boys at Iowa State, those Cyclones, they may slip up and beat Oklahoma as they did last year. The injury to Rodney Anderson is huge in the backfield of Oklahoma, but we shall see. Ames, Iowa is not an easy place to play, especially when they have the momentum. But it should be a great college football weekend as we see some shakeup in the top 10. As I feel there may be some upsets that we shall see. But if you would, just leave some comments and go Dogs, and thank you for tuning in.